You've been told to wait, to be patient, to earn your turn. They taught you that permission is power, that obedience makes you virtuous. But that's how the powerful keep you beneath them. Every second you wait for someone's approval, someone colder, smarter, hungrier is already taking what you wanted. That's the law no one speaks of, the law of power. Power doesn't wait. It doesn't ask. It moves. It takes. And when it takes, the world accepts it as truth. You've been trained to seek validation, to smile when you should stay silent, to obey when you should dominate, to ask when you should command. And the cruel reality is this: the man who asks to rise never does. The one who moves without asking becomes unstoppable. He rewrites the rules, reshapes the hierarchy, and forces others to adapt to his will. The world is not kind. It never was. It doesn't care about your intentions, your feelings, or your patience. It only recognizes control. You either hold it or you serve it. And the longer you hesitate, the more you lose what could have been yours. So stop begging for permission. You don't need it. Stop waiting for the right time. It doesn't exist. Power creates time. Power decides when. Power takes what it wants. If you understand this, if you're done apologizing for wanting more, comment right now. Power takes what it wants. Because this isn't just a message. It's the turning point. The moment you stop asking to exist and start commanding your place. Welcome to Machiavelli's discipline. Power begins the moment you stop asking for it. The instant you realize no one is coming to save you, that's when control shifts. Every man is born powerless, but only a few refuse to stay that way. The rest spend their lives waiting for someone to hand them permission to live. But the powerful, they don't wait. They take what the timid only dream of. You've been conditioned to believe power is something earned, that you need approval, position, or the right moment. That's a lie. Power is taken through movement, through action, through the willingness to break what others protect. The man who hesitates gives his strength to those who don't. The moment you seek acceptance, you surrender dominance. And when you surrender dominance, you become forgettable, a man who once could have been, but never was. The awakening begins when you understand one thing: no one gives you power because no one wants you to have it. The world is built on control, those who command and those who obey. The powerful maintain their position by convincing you to wait, to be good, to be patient. They feed on your hesitation. They build their empire on your obedience. To awaken, you must kill the need to be understood. You must silence the desire to be liked. You must become comfortable being seen as cold, ruthless, even arrogant, because that's what it takes to rise above the herd. You cannot dominate a world you're afraid to offend. Power respects only one language: action. Speak less, move first, decide faster, make them adjust to you. The world bends to those who act like it already belongs to them. And once you taste that control, you'll never beg again. Comment below. I don't ask. I take. Obedience is the most dangerous comfort a man can possess. It feels safe. It feels righteous. It feels moral. But it is the quiet death of power. Since childhood, you've been conditioned to kneel, to raise your hand before you speak, to wait for someone older, richer, or louder to grant you approval. They told you it was respect, but it was training. Training to submit, training to obey, training to forget that you were born to command. The truth is simple. The system rewards obedience only long enough to drain you of ambition. It gives you just enough validation to keep you loyal, never enough control to make you free. The obedient man becomes predictable, and predictability is the cage the powerful build for the weak. They don't fear you when they know you'll follow orders. They fear you when you start thinking for yourself. Every hierarchy depends on obedient men to hold it up. Workers, soldiers, citizens, believers, all convinced their virtue lies in following. But the powerful man learns that virtue is a weapon used against him. The moment he stops trying to please, he becomes dangerous, because the one who no longer seeks permission cannot be controlled. Understand this: obedience is not respect. It is fear disguised as discipline. You obey because you think they can destroy you. But once you realize they can only destroy what you allow them to touch, obedience dies and real power is born. The man who obeys out of habit never becomes a leader. The man who obeys out of calculation learns when to bend and when to break the order entirely. If you want to rise, you must stop worshipping the idea of being good. Good men are remembered only when the powerful need examples of what not to become. It's not cruelty that grants dominance. It's clarity. The ability to see the game for what it is, control through illusion. The illusion that you owe someone your compliance. You owe nothing, not to your peers, not to your masters, not to the world that benefits from your silence. When obedience dies, individuality awakens. You stop echoing their language. You stop mirroring their fears. You stop asking, "Am I allowed?" You begin to act as though permission never existed. And the moment you do, you become untouchable. Comment below, "I command my own will," because this is where the transformation begins. This is where obedience ends and power takes its first breath. Control is never random. It is designed, engineered with precision, disguised as order, and maintained through fear. Every system you live in was built to keep you predictable. Society praises obedience because it needs servants, not sovereigns. It needs you disciplined enough to build, but docile enough to never own what you build. That's the architecture of control, a system that convinces you submission is noble while your strength is slowly harvested by those who never submit. The powerful understand that real dominance isn't about brute force. It's about psychological leverage. They don't need to chain you. They just need to teach you to chain yourself. Every rule, every social expectation, every subtle reward for compliance, it all exists to train you to seek permission before you act. And once you learn to wait, they no longer have to stop you because you stop yourself. They've mastered the art of invisible authority. They don't have to tell you what to do. They make you want to do it. You obey because you believe it's right. You conform because it feels safe. You bow because you've been convinced that rebellion leads to ruin. But here's the truth. Rebellion doesn't destroy you. It awakens you. The moment you stop fearing their disapproval, you start building your own empire. The Machiavellian mind sees the structure for what it is, a game of control disguised as morality. And once you see the board, you stop playing as a piece. You start playing as the player. The powerful don't move impulsively, they move strategically. They follow rules only long enough to understand how to break them without consequence. To master control, you must first observe it. Study how people respond to power. Watch how the weak seek validation in every interaction. Listen to how quickly they apologize when they've done nothing wrong. Every time someone submits unnecessarily, you're seeing the architecture of control in motion. Your goal is not to destroy it. Your goal is to rise above it, to stand so far beyond their reach that their rules no longer apply to you. That is where freedom begins, not in rebellion for its own sake, but in understanding that true control comes from mastering yourself before anyone else can. You cannot rule others until you rule your instincts. You cannot command power until your emotions obey you. The man who conquers himself becomes untouchable because no threat, no system, no authority can manipulate what he no longer fears to lose. Comment this now. I master myself before the world masters me. Because the architecture of control only exists for those who cannot control themselves. Fear is the oldest weapon of power. It existed long before kingdoms, crowns, or laws. It is the invisible chain that keeps men still, the quiet whisper that convinces them to bow before they even understand why. Fear doesn't need violence to rule. It only needs your imagination. Once your mind begins to believe in limits, your body will obey them without question. Silence has always belonged to the powerful. It isn't emptiness, it's control. It's the invisible edge that cuts deeper than any word. The weak fear silence because it exposes them. The strong use it because it protects them. In silence, you see everything that noise tries to hide. Who's confident, who's insecure, who needs to be heard to feel important. Most people speak because they can't stand stillness. They talk to fill the space, to prove they matter, to seek reassurance that they still exist. But every word they throw into the air is a confession, a glimpse of what they value, what they fear, what can be used against them. The Machiavellian learns early that every unnecessary word weakens his position. He speaks rarely, but when he does, his voice carries weight. Silence is more than restraint. It's strategy. It's the pause that makes others reveal themselves. When you stop explaining, people begin to fill in the blanks with their own insecurities. They start to question what you know, what you're planning, what you might do next. That uncertainty is power. It keeps them off balance while you remain perfectly calm. Power doesn't shout. It doesn't rush to defend itself. It doesn't need to prove anything. The man who can stay silent in chaos commands more respect than the man who screams for attention, because silence is confidence made visible. It's presence without effort. Learn to hold your silence. Let others reveal their motives while you study them. Let them waste their energy trying to read you while you plan your next move. Speak only when your words will change the direction of the room. And when you do, speak with finality, not noise. Understand this. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. The world belongs to those who can remain calm when everyone else is desperate to be heard. If you understand this, if you're ready to command respect without speaking a word, comment below. My silence commands power, because the man who controls his words controls his world. Power is never desperate. It doesn't chase, it doesn't cling, it doesn't beg to be understood. The moment you become too available, you lose your value. The man who gives everyone his time, his energy, his emotions, becomes common, and what's common is never respected. Psychological distance is the shield of the powerful. It's how you protect your energy, how you control perception, how you force others to value your presence. When you pull back, when you create space, the world leans in. People desire what they can't easily reach. They respect what feels beyond their control. That's the law of power. Distance creates value. Most men destroy their presence by giving too much of it. They explain too often, they react too quickly, they try too hard to prove loyalty, love, or worth. But the more they give, the less they are seen. The Machiavellian knows this truth. Attention is currency, and scarcity raises the price. He doesn't withdraw out of arrogance. He withdraws to increase his power, because silence and distance make people question what you're thinking, what you're planning, and what they mean to you. When they can't read you, they respect you. When they can't predict you, they fear you. That's control, not through domination, but through presence. Every step you take back creates tension. Every unanswered message creates curiosity. Every calm delay creates pressure. Distance bends the dynamic in your favor because people chase what retreats from them. Psychological distance is not coldness, it's precision. It's knowing when to appear and when to disappear. It's understanding that presence must be earned, not given. The more selective you become, the more powerful your presence feels when it returns. The world remembers the man who doesn't need to be everywhere to be felt. Understand this. You cannot lead if you're constantly available. You cannot command respect if you're always within reach. Step back. Let absence work for you. Let your silence speak in your place. The powerful man doesn't vanish. He simply becomes rare. And rarity is what builds reverence. If you understand this, if you're ready to stop giving yourself away and start controlling how the world experiences you, comment below. My distance creates power, because the man who learns to pull away at will never has to chase again. Emotion is the invisible chain that binds most men. It makes them predictable, easy to read, easy to move. The moment you react, you surrender control. The moment you defend yourself, you've already lost ground. Power demands restraint, not because it kills emotion, but because it commands it. Every man feels anger, fear, pride, and desire. But the difference between the powerful and the powerless is simple. The powerful decide when to feel and how to use it. The powerless let emotion choose for them. They lash out when provoked. They speak when they should listen. They rush when they should wait. Every time they do, they reveal themselves. And once you are readable, you are no longer a threat. The Machiavellian learns to stand still in the storm. He feels everything, but nothing owns him. When he is insulted, he watches. When he is challenged, he listens. When he is betrayed, he studies. He lets the noise pass before he speaks, because emotion under control becomes calculation, and calculation wins wars. The world thrives on your reaction. It wants you angry, loud, defensive, impulsive, because when you react, you lose focus. But when you stay calm, they lose control. They don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, or what you'll do next. And that uncertainty becomes your shield. Understand this. Calmness is not emptiness. It's precision. It's power refined into silence. A calm man is not harmless. He's unreadable. The crowd fears what it cannot predict, and that fear gives you space to rule. You must learn to pause before you move, to breathe before you speak, to feel emotion without obeying it. Every second you wait, the world exposes itself a little more, and that's when you strike. Power is not found in avoiding emotion. It's found in controlling it so completely that even your anger becomes a weapon, not a weakness. If you understand this, if you're ready to stop reacting and start deciding, comment below, "My emotions obey me." Because the man who commands his emotions commands every outcome that follows. From the beginning, they've taught you to be afraid of rejection, afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, afraid of standing alone, and you learned to obey those fears as if they were truth. Every time you hesitated, every time you played safe, you were building the walls of your own cage. That's how power keeps you contained, not by force, but by conditioning. They don't have to stop you, you stop yourself. The powerful understand this game perfectly. They know fear is not something to avoid, but something to master. They feel it like everyone else, but instead of running from it, they walk toward it. They study it. They dissect it. They ask, what is this fear protecting? Because every fear hides the doorway to strength. The fear of confrontation hides your authority. The fear of solitude hides your independence. The fear of failure hides your transformation. Once you face it, the illusion dissolves, and the chains disappear with it. The Machiavellian doesn't aim to be fearless. He aims to be unmoved. He knows fear is simply information, a signal of where others will freeze and where he must act. He moves exactly where the weak hesitate, and that's why he always wins. Control begins when you stop letting fear speak for you. You can feel it, but you do not follow it. You listen, but you decide. Because a man who controls his fear controls his future. Understand this. The moment you stop fearing loss, you become untouchable. Threats lose their power. Failure loses its weight. Judgment loses its sting. And when nothing outside of you can shake you, the world begins to bend around you. If you feel that shift beginning inside you, if you know this truth is yours, comment right now, "Fear obeys me." Because fear can only rule the man who kneels to it. The man who stands against it becomes the one the world learns to fear. Power will always demand isolation. It's the natural consequence of rising above what's average. The higher you climb, the fewer people can breathe the same air as you. Most men fear that distance. They crave noise, attention, and constant validation. But the powerful man learns to turn solitude into strength. He understands that isolation is not punishment. It's purification. When you stand apart, you begin to see the world as it truly is. You notice how easily people trade loyalty for comfort, how quickly they bow to approval, how desperate they are to belong. You realize that most conversations are distractions, most alliances are fragile, and most people speak not from truth, but from fear. The Machiavellian man withdraws not because he hates the world, but because he refuses to be shaped by it. Isolation reveals what noise hides. It strips away illusion. In silence, you see your own motives, your ambitions, your weaknesses, your impulses. You learn which parts of you were built by choice and which were built by influence. And once you separate the two, you become dangerous because nothing outside of you can define who you are anymore. Power grows in solitude because solitude sharpens focus. When no one is around to validate you, you start to validate yourself. You move from needing approval to creating it. You start to hear your own thoughts clearly, without interruption, without confusion. That clarity becomes your weapon, and in time, your peace. But make no mistake, isolation is not loneliness. Loneliness is the craving for company. Isolation is the presence of self. The man who can stand alone without losing direction becomes unshakable. He no longer chases attention because his energy demands it. He no longer asks for loyalty because his presence commands it. Understand this, the crowd gives comfort, but it also takes clarity. And clarity is worth more than company. To build power, you must first be willing to walk alone, because solitude is where you stop being influenced and start becoming inevitable. If you understand this, if you're ready to stop fearing distance and start using it as your foundation, comment below. My isolation builds my power. Because the man who masters solitude never has to beg for attention again. Respect from others begins with the respect you demand from yourself. The man who tolerates disrespect in private will eventually be humiliated in public. Power doesn't come from how loudly you defend yourself. It comes from the quiet certainty that no one is allowed to cross certain lines. Ruthless self-respect means you stop negotiating your value. You stop chasing approval. You stop explaining who you are to people who have already shown they can't see it. Every time you let someone speak to you with contempt, every time you give more than you receive, you teach the world how to treat you. The Machiavellian understands this. Boundaries are not walls of pride, they are walls of survival. Most people confuse humility with submission. They think endurance is virtue, that silence in the face of disrespect is strength. It isn't. It's decay. The longer you stay quiet to keep the peace, the more you teach others that your peace doesn't matter. Ruthless self-respect is not arrogance, it's balance. It's knowing exactly where your limits are and enforcing them without apology. You don't argue with disrespect. You don't justify yourself to those who diminish you. You remove your presence and let absence deliver the message. Because when a man truly values himself, he does not need to shout. His standards speak for him. His energy withdraws and people feel the loss. Understand this. Self-respect is not built through words. It's built through action. Every decision, every habit, every moment of discipline becomes evidence of who you are. When you demand excellence from yourself, the world begins to follow that tone. When you settle for less, the world gives you less. Power always aligns with the man who sets the highest standard for himself. Ruthless self-respect means you become your own enforcer. You protect your energy, your time, and your name with the same precision a king protects his crown. Because when you hold yourself to a higher law, the world learns to either rise to meet it or move out of your way. If you understand this, if you're ready to live with that level of clarity and strength, comment below, I defend my respect with power. Because the man who refuses to disrespect himself becomes impossible to disrespect. Untouchable is not a title the world gives you. It's a state of being you build, piece by piece, through control, clarity, and relentless discipline. It begins the moment you stop letting emotions steer you, stop letting fear guide you, stop letting others decide what you deserve. Power is not found in domination. It's found in detachment. The less you need from the world, the more it bends to your will. Becoming untouchable doesn't mean you're invincible. It means you've made peace with loss. You understand that everything external, approval, love, opportunity, loyalty, can be taken. But what can't be taken is your composure, your focus, your command over yourself. The man who masters that truth becomes impossible to defeat because nothing outside of him can break what he no longer depends on. You reach this level when you stop reacting, when you stop explaining, when you stop proving. You don't move to be seen. You move because it serves your purpose. You don't speak to be heard. You speak when silence has already done the damage. You don't chase outcomes. You attract them by becoming the kind of man outcomes gravitate toward. The Machiavellian knows this well. Respect fades, alliances change, admiration dies, but power remains for those who can detach from the noise. He builds himself into something unshakable. Every failure becomes data. Every betrayal becomes education. Every setback becomes fuel. While others crumble from rejection, he simply adjusts, refocuses, and returns sharper. Untouchable doesn't mean emotionless. It means controlled. It means feeling deeply, but never being moved by feeling. It means standing in chaos with steady hands and a steady mind while everyone else falls apart. The world will always test your foundation. Your stillness will always expose theirs. Understand this. Power is not about ruling others. It's about mastering yourself so completely that no one else can. The world fears that kind of man because he cannot be bribed, flattered, or broken. He moves through life like a shadow of his own making, silent, calm, deliberate, unstoppable. If you understand this, if you're ready to rise above reaction, above noise, above need, comment below, "I am untouchable." And remember, power doesn't ask. It doesn't wait. Power takes what it wants. So if you felt this, if you found your reflection in these words, then like the video, subscribe to Machiavelli's Discipline, and turn on notifications, because your evolution into power has already begun, and what comes next will make you unstoppable.